Good afternoon, everyone, on this beginning of a Labor Day weekend, and just thought I'd pop on, do a little bit more work, and broadcast it as I go. So, working on globalizing 3D internet so we can get it out there for everybody as an open source project. I created it as a hosted solution, so now I'm just working on making all the variables global and renaming some things, cleaning up some stuff, just to make sure that everything is real easy to follow, real easy to use the code and everything else. So let's see here. Okay, so basically I am chugging my way through working on the install process to make sure that it's nice and smooth and that you have some things there when you get started. And also working on renaming some of the variables within the code just so that everything is global and real easy to understand. So I'll continue on that and we'll see where we end up. Let's go to this one here. Okay, all set. So the first thing I'm doing is basically going through, we have things like Action Zone X, but that's not exactly the best naming for it. And basically there's Action Zone X, and then there's also what's going on? I clicked a button and now my screen just jumped. Where'd I go? There I go. Okay. So it's a Friday. That kind of stuff happens on a Friday. So basically I'm working with the database. I'm checking some of the names. I'm getting rid of some fields that were part of test projects or they're part of things that I'm moving into plugins. So I want to start with the raw product and get it as stripped down and clean as we can possibly get it, so that when you download a copy, you are getting the full best working version possible, and you can add your own plugins to it, or you can download plugins from our site. So that's the plan, and like I said, I'm going through and cleaning up some things. For example, a number of these tables have things like positions, scaling, and rotation. And in this case, one of the things we have is the action zones. Well, I don't just call it position, scaling, and rotation because it's kind of redundant and we don't necessarily know where it came from unless you have the word action zone or something signifying that it's part of that. So I think throughout the code I probably named it 4 or 5 different shortcuts, different ways, and everything else. But when it comes down to it, it's really seeing double yet? Yeah, I'm seeing double. Are you kidding? It's a Friday before a long weekend, so I'm not only seeing double, but I got one foot out the door ready to do a long weekend. So, but just to get a little bit of time in before I do, I'm working on it. So let's see what we can do here. We're going to look for action zone this. Well, actually, I've already found a bunch of them. And in this particular case, well, first of all, these ones are already marked out, but I haven't decided if I'm getting rid of that code yet. But these are position. So I am going to do it longhand, put the word position on there for the variable. I'll go through all these, and then I'll go through all the ones that are all the Y values and then all the Z values. I'm double checking as I go. I'm not just randomly changing things. I'm being very careful about what I actually switch over so that I'm consistent of what I'm getting and where I'm putting everything. It's just easier this way to make sure I get everything and account for it all. So going through the code, Action Zone X was Action Zone Position X, and there's not too many of them, so I'm going to go through and clean those up. We're going to make it actually say the word position because it just, it's one of those things. I want to make sure that I get them all. I am also looking at the code because I could do a search and replace on some of this stuff. Some of them catch other fields also because of the names were short and ended up being part of a word of another word. So I'm kind of going through these a little bit slower instead of just a search and replace. I know with the search results on the bottom of the page I can glance at it and know that I'm in good shape, but what I'm doing is I'm checking the code as I go and kind of looking at where some of these references are. I'm looking at how many references I have, some of the stuff that looks repetitive in the code where I may have coded it out again instead of just finding where I did something similar and globalizing it, and stuff. So there's a handful of different things like that I want to double check for as I'm doing this. And I am going to rename it in the database, so when these ones are doing SQL commands, they are going to be updated too. That's the table definition right there, in fact. So, okay, so we'll get each one of these. And, okay. Like I said, I just want this stuff to be where very self-explanatory. Anytime somebody looks through the code, I want it to be exactly what you expected, where you expected. This is one of those things where I think it helped me find a couple of locations, but we have that. I think action zones were the hardest, or were one of the ones that took most liberty when I programmed them and set up the names. Just because there's quite a few things that use this type of stuff. So, okay, finding files. And I want to see, are they the same ones that I just found? It looks pretty good to me. I don't see any different ones. Looks like all the same lines, same sections. Okay, nothing new in there. So find that, and like I said, sometimes I'll do a quick replace and say position and replace all. Oh, finding files, replace all. That'll get a few more than just one of them. Okay, and action zone Z, let's do the same thing there. Finding files. Then we double check to make sure that we're getting exactly what we expected everywhere. No surprises. Sometimes what happens is, you can see down in the bottom of the screen there, what'll happen is we'll end up with one that had a similar name, and like this is part of the name, and it's, or even part of the middle of the name or something. And so I'm looking for those kind of references before I do it, just so that I don't change some other variable that is actually correct in the first place. There's two other places we're going to do it, and this other one is on my website. When we pull in the action zones from here, they're not named different in the database yet, but I want to make sure that when I read them in, they're using the same name that I expect on the other end. So that takes care of that one. And finally, we'll go in here and we'll modify this table. We've already altered the table definitions that are going to create the table, so later on we'll test all that stuff. We'll go from scratch, we'll delete the database and go through the whole install again. But for now, I'm just making sure that all the variables are global, all of them are named, easy ways to understand. And we're going to work on getting rid of a couple fields here that aren't in use in general. So we have everything from move position to merge ID. These are all fields that I grabbed in here, I was using them, and now I don't. I was testing some stuff with it, and some of it was related to a method I was doing for avatars before my final choice, and so not everything is the best way to do it now. So like here, okay, we have move position. I'm going to go ahead and remove the move position XYZs. We're going to get all three of them at the same time because they are next to each other every instance. And then we'll go through some of these other ones just to make sure. I want to see how used they are in the code, if they are. So we'll get rid of that and get rid of those. Best days of a developer is when you finish your code or you remove a whole bunch of code out and it still works. Removing code out makes it run smoother and faster. Putting code in adds functionality, and that's always good too. Position. We're grabbing all these out of here. undo that one because that wasn't what I was doing. I already did that one. It was the same line. Okay. Move position. Move position had to do with the avatars, but it also had some other stuff to do with, well, it had some other areas. It helped me track some animation that I was doing. And like I said, the method that I was doing it is obsolete. Found a better way to do it, and now we do every animation through Blender and directly through Babylon with the objects. So there's less need for some of this direct stuff like this. So, move position. When I first started, I was actually designing my own avatar system, so that explains some of these fields that I have in here that are not going to be in here. So basically I should have move position Y gone. I'll actually just look for move position, find all, and they are all gone. Good. Okay, the next one is move start X, or just say move start. Okay, and notice all these references are all database, and when it comes down to it, well, first of all, Babylon engine, they use something, see, this is what I was talking about. They used remove start size gradient. Well, that's the words move start happens to be in the middle of it. So those are the things I watch for when I do global searches and replaces and stuff. So we have move start XYZ, and then we have move start XYZ right here. We're going to get these references out of here. And I know move end, I could probably do it at the same time, but I'm going to do them one at a time so I can search through the code and make sure I'm not doing anything I shouldn't. Okay. I've been renaming things all morning, so some of the directories have been renamed. I'm working to make sure that they are all very cleanly named, consistent within each other folder, so that if I have, for example, a action zones directory in iframes, then the name of the function is action zones, and the name of the what's the other ones? Connect, where we're getting JSON from other servers, and you know, each individual section has the same consistency with the naming. Okay, let's go here. These are in sets of 3, so I am getting all 3 of them at the same time. Notice I'm going through the same files that I was each time. Move start, and we're going to move start here, and move start here. Okay, cleaning up some code, making it run well, getting rid of some things that were experimental, packaging it up to go open source. So we're gonna finish going through renaming everything that we're gonna. Then we'll be moving on to, we've been writing the install process and making sure that all the install process has the exact same, basically it's gonna take you through getting your data started. That should take care of that one. And then we're going to do, I'm going to look up move start one more time just to make sure that we didn't leave any, since they were in clumps of 3. And we're good with those. And now we're going to do move end. And as you can see, they were reading in the values out of the database, and they were placing them in the database consistently each time. But what I don't see in the code was any use of it. So I've already removed where the code was using these lines. So we're not using any of these variables currently. And that's the one thing I was just kind of glancing at and checking for as we go. Make sure that if anything's in use, we're not doing anything to it. Could you angle that fan a little bit over this way? Thank you, love. Thank you. So much better. We're in Riverside, and if you're somewhere else, you're probably in a cooler area than me, unless you're in Palm Springs or Vegas. But right now we're toasty. So okay, we're getting rid of these move ends. So it was a starting and moving frame, and it was telling it to move from one point to another on the fly. Just a coordination between some animation. And basically, like I said, it was a test run. It was adding some functionality, trying it out, testing out some different ways of doing things to see which one was going to work the best. And once I finished that, well, since we're going global, I don't need that in this copy anymore. I still have it on my test server. So if I decide to revive it, use it in a plugin or anything of that nature, then I'll just pull it from my test server and basically get it from there and can create the plugin that works with this version of the code. The whole idea is this version of the code is the one I'm going to run on my own hosted solution too. So we're going to be running the same version. I like to keep track of what version we're using and use the same thing everybody else is. That way I know that if there's something that's worth fixing sooner, I take care of it right away, and if it's something that can wait, I either get inconvenienced or I take care of it right away for myself. So kind of a way to make sure that I'm taking care of stuff and you're using the same version, so either I make it real friendly for all of us or we all suffer. Okay, finding files. What we doing? Well, we're creating an open source version of 3D CMS that lets you host 3D internet websites. So we're talking 3D shopping sites, 3D games. We've set it up so that it's easy to create, easy to host on your own. I'll be releasing the open source in about a month. That's my expected date of finishing this up. I have a hosted solution where I built this myself, and what I'm doing is I'm globalizing everything and also perfecting it all as I go, and going to make it so we can release it and everybody can use it. But what it does is I've separated the creation of 3D websites into 3 parts. I have your 3D communities, which are your scenes. So you have your layout and your scene of everything. Then I have 3D buildings that you drop into the scene. And then I have 3D things, which are like everything from avatars to vehicles to trees and furniture and all these other things that you drop inside of your buildings and your communities. So I've created them and simplified them down into 3 things that we actually build in place. You can use Blender and import them right directly into this. It has a Babylon engine behind it, so we're using, it's all browser, no add-ins or plugins necessary, just straight out browser. And basically, you can host these websites anywhere on the internet, and then you can combine them in the communities. So let's say I have a 3D store, and I've got a shopping store. I can drop it into many different scenes, and I can still host it, change it, update it in one place, and everybody always gets the latest version. Now, the cool part for developers is, just like WordPress, you can write plugins for people, and you can do freemium, so you give them a little something for free, and then if you pay a premium, you can have some upgraded functionality. Well, we're doing the same things with games. So game components and 3D shopping and all these other pieces, so that this 3D scene for 3D internet is basically something that you can actually create plugins. Let's say you're great at making cars. Well, you can make a car, and people can put the plugin into their 3D site. We're doing something similar to WordPress with that idea behind it, but you basically put the plugin in. Now you'll be able to use them in your scenes that are hosted by that server. The thing is, you can have it, let's say you drive around this car, but if you want passengers to get in, or you want to give it a boost of power or something else, people can pay a premium subscription, or they can pay a one-time fee, and you can make money as a developer while other people get to use that car that you built. So it's a way of kind of marketing it out and standardizing how we do things so that everybody can make some money, and we have a standard platform instead of, leaving it up to just the big game companies to create games for us. Ready Player One, you got it. Everybody in the world can have their own avatars and jump into scenes. You're going to be able to do all that stuff, and that's the idea. I've been working on it for about 8 years, and I was a webmaster at the county of San Bernardino, so I've got a bit of a background in web technology. I'm newer to the gaming technology, but I've been a programmer for over 25 years, so like I said, about 8 years I've been programming games now, so I've been tripping my way through it and figuring it out and doing it, and like I said, building this platform, and I think by the end of September, that's my goal, by the end of September I want to release it open source so that everybody can host their own websites. We have some links down at the bottom, take you to the YouTube page, but we also have some stuff where I've done some updates here and showed you a little bit of highlights of things that I've created. The YouTube page does have some demos, talks more about what it actually is and how it all works and how everything comes together. And so that's it in a nutshell. But the whole idea is to make it where developers, it's a playground for developers, but it's going to interconnect the whole world as a gaming platform so that you can just make components and drop them in. Like I said, you can create things in Blender, you can create them natively in Babylon, or you can use my CMS, which is a extension of Babylon tools. So cool. Yeah, you're right. Blazing a trail. I'm trying to do my best. I've been working on it for a while, and I really want to. I want to get this out there, and I call it Walk the Web. So opposed to browsing the internet, you walk the web. So please follow me if you would. And basically what will happen is I'm going to keep on building it, and I'll be releasing, like I said, by the end of September is my goal. So I really want to just get it out there for everybody and make it a playground where we can all work. By releasing it open source, other developers can look at my work. They can go, hey, why did you do it this way here? And we'll fix it and make it the best. I'm not one of those people that are married to the code. I'm married to the concept. I'm married to the idea. So basically, when you look at the code and you go, oh gosh, there's a so much better way we can replace this whole function with this 3 lines of code, well then you tell me those things, we'll fix them, we'll get them into the core product, and we'll keep distributing it to the world. And like I said, I'm geared up to make it work, and yeah, so that's where I'm at, and that's where I'm heading. So right now I'm working on going through some of these tables. When I took the copy of my hosted site, over all these years I have tested and tried thousands of different things. Some worked, some didn't, but the concepts I want to do, I figured out how to make them work. I refined them and everything else. Well, now I took a copy. I started about a couple months ago with taking a copy of my hosted site, and I'm working on globalizing it so it'll work everywhere. That means that it uses your domain name, and it uses all these different pieces, but I'm stripping it down to the core product and moving the other things that I'm including with it as plugins so that you can turn them off or on, or you can add other ones or replace them if you come up with something that works better. But that's the whole idea, is I'm creating the platform for distribution and for being able to use the plugins. Those are the two pieces that I still have to finish out. So right now I'm globalizing it, and I'm also working on the install process. When you first get it, I already have it where you can just basically create the website, drop this code in there, and then when you run it, it'll help you create your config file, and it'll create the database for you and all the tables that we use, and you can also, it'll start populating with some sample data, and yeah, so that's where it's at. I'm working on where my goal is within 5 minutes of you putting it on a server and starting up your site, you'll have your first community scene and building up and running with a handful of things in it. That's the goal. Less than 5 minutes. That's my goal. And I've been able to do it, not the install process because that's new to here, but I did create a plugin for WordPress that allowed you to take a WooCommerce store and add a 3D store using those products in less than 5 minutes. So I know the concept works, and I know I've got a lot of code that made it work. So now I'm just setting it up so that you have a distributed version of it. So that's where I'm at, that's where I'm going, and jumping back in on the code here. I want to make sure that a lot of the code is, I appreciate that, I appreciate it. Believe me, it's been thought out. Oh, the other thing, just a little cool thing about it is I trademarked http://3D and https://3D. My concept is that when you find 3D dot in the domain name instead of www, then basically you're going to one of the 3D sites that use this technology. That's the concept. Of course, it's going to be one of those things that's, impossible to police, but with that known, when I distribute this, that's the way we're creating sites, is we're using 3D dot so that it coexists with your www website. It can also interact between the two of them. For example, when you're 3D shopping, I don't recreate the shopping cart. You have a shopping cart in an online store using WooCommerce or whatever you're using. Well, what I do is I use their API, I coded against it, and I created all these different things inside your stores, the sample stores I created, and basically they go out, get the products and pictures and images and prices and everything, bring it back and populate what's in the 3D store. So basically you maintain your online store and all the products are shown in 3D in your 3D store. Now, above and beyond that, the other thing that's really cool is the 3D store itself. You can, well, like I said, you can drop it in many different communities. So the cool part, though, is you can browse a community and walk around and see the store, or I can browse just the building itself. And when I'm browsing the building, I'm setting it up so that if other avatars walk into my store from any one of the communities that it's in, I'm going to make the avatar show if I'm looking at just the building. That way, me as a store owner, I can be working my store as an avatar, or I can hire somebody to have a virtual job as an avatar working in my store, and whenever somebody comes in, they go, "Hey, how can I help you?" and take care of it and everything else. You got it, yes. So basically, we can create online jobs of people working in places. Yeah, exactly. We can. The other part is, I've even been able to track using Google Analytics if every time that your building gets shown in a different community. So you can track which communities are the busiest for seeing your building. You can also tell if you've seen your building at a distance or if you've seen it when you got closer in. So the whole idea is behind it is that you will know if they see your distance at your building at a distance, then basically we already know that they were exposed to your store, but didn't necessarily walk close enough to it to load it up the rest of the way. But the concept and the way that I did this stuff is it actually loads in stages. So we don't load too much at any one time. Here, hey, there I am. Okay, since I'm just talking about this anyway. But here's an important part of 3D, the way I designed it. When you have a typical game, one of the things you do is you load up in levels so that you can completely load up what you need it to do, and then it just shows or hides whatever it does within that level, but it's pretty much as the computer can hold a standard regular computer or whatever. So basically that's the level. Well, what I did was I made it dynamic instead. So instead of making levels, then you finish the level and all of a sudden it unloads that level and loads up a new level, instead of that gaming concept, what I did was I designed it that I use invisible shapes, so like a rectangle, and it's called a load zone in my case. And what you do is when the avatar walks into it, it tells it to go out on the internet, find the definition of the building, for example, come back, and then load it into the scene. And if you walk out of that area near it, then it unloads. So the whole idea is that it's regenerative. So basically, we could create endless scenes of things that as you walk closer, you're seeing the items. As you walk farther away, they disappear. So that it trades off in memory what it's actually doing. So my code actually manages this process and decides what could be loaded because you're potentially close to it to load it. Now, to take it a step farther, we already know, if you've done any programming, you already know that you can only load so many meshes, you can only load so many subdivisions of meshes, and there's only so much a computer can handle and still work fast and smooth and everything. Well, by doing it this way, not only can it walk in and you see the building or not, but we can break the building down into pieces. For example, from an extreme distance, when you walk up towards the building, now all of a sudden you see something at an extreme distance and you go, oh, there's something over there, I need to go check that out. That would be what I call the extreme zone. Then, as you're walking closer and you start getting close enough to actually approach it and start seeing some detail, then I switch over and I tell it to go out again. Now I tell it to turn on and load up all the items that were at a high distance away kind of idea. So extreme and then high, but it's like the outside facade of the building. It can be in detailed 3D and everything else like that. Then, as you get even closer, by default, I have a third level that, let's say you're right standing outside of it before you actually walk in, then it loads up like things that are on the inside of the building and the details, let's say window shopping and different stuff like that. So by dividing it into 3 different areas, you get a scene that stuff in the distance are large and, farther away, less detailed. But as you walk closer, they're getting more detailed. And the same thing happens to the things that you're walking farther away. The whole idea is, you see what I'm talking about? Yeah. Yes, exactly. So we could actually make like an outdoor shopping mall where you're walking by one store and another one. You'll still see that there's more stores in front of you, but you might not see what's in the stores until you get closer to them. The whole idea is I'm trading off how much a computer can hold for graphics and for functionality for all this animation and everything we're doing. But at the same time, I'm trading off and swapping what could be rendered at any one point in time based on where you're standing, if you've walked into one of these zones or not. And so it'll render whatever you're closest to. It'll not render the things out there, but it clears the memory out. So I had to do a lot of memory management things to make sure that you're cleanly getting the things you need, but also can cleanly erase them while you're playing and stuff. So that's the idea. But I can see the days when you walk right up, you go inside of a bowling alley, you bowl a couple games with your friends, because we're talking multiplayer environment with logins, just like Ready Player One, the whole thing. We're talking about you log in, you got your character no matter what scene you go to in the world. That's what I'm talking about. Now all of a sudden you play a game for this particular scene, or you walk down the street, or you hop on a train and go to the next city over. We're talking internet cities. We're talking huge internet cities, endless. You can go walk around, visit, shop, find different things. We can go into yeah, exactly. And my goal in doing this is not to create everything in the world. It's to give everybody the tools so they can create everything in the world. See, the framework is built. The framework works. The thing is, right now I get judged by, hey, how good was my graphics in this one scene? Well, you know what? I have to say, I'm a hack when it comes to graphic artists. I can get things done. I can find some graphics. I can take pictures and I can make some, seamless tiles so that I can put them on stuff. And, I can get around a little bit and I understand the process. I just never spent that much time in graphics to get great at it. So I want the great graphics artists out there and the architects and the programmers and developers, all these people to be able to add their 2 cents and their best parts of this kind of world, but use this framework so that we can all put it in and perfect it and make it something for everybody. And that's why I'm doing it. But the whole idea is everybody can make the money and stuff, You know it. That's something you say about that also. The other part is you should know, even today, it can do 4K graphics. It's not the best thing to do for a whole lot of items, but the idea is this. Most of the time I use lesser graphics because you're not taking up that much of the screen on an item that's farther away from you. So the graphic on that surface, if it's a certain amount, it's better than the pixels on your screen anyway. So that's one thing. But I give you the option to use your original graphic just by, let's say I created a box and I put a texture on it. I can click one checkbox. Now it'll use the original image. If the original image is designed for 4K, then you get the 4K images, and it works smooth. So we basically have done this in a way that I'm making it where that's an extension of what a browser can already do. And also Babylon, if you haven't checked it out, Babylon has a lot of cool stuff in there, and I just keep on, every time they come out with new things, I expose them out in the CMS to make it easy. The whole idea is that I'm enabling people to do what they want to with it. I'm not trying to limit anything. I'm making it available and that they can use it. So I'm exposing out what they have from Babylon. If you want to write some script directly in Babylon and you want to use it on your site, I'm going to set up some tools that, confirm what you wrote so that it's not malicious, and then it'll run your code when people walk near that building, for example. So we'll be doing all kinds of cool stuff like that. The other part is if you want to, let's see, there's Babylon, then there's the CMS. If you're not a coder, then people can, let's say a coder creates you a 3D store, well then you can actually use the tools to edit your store and change what's on the shelves and all these other pieces that are part of the CMS. It's designed to be friendly. It's designed to be able to manipulate and change things on the fly as you're doing it. So you can actually work in the admin side and manipulate stuff and change them, and it goes live on your site immediately. So tried to make it nice and smooth from both sides, and that's what I did. So it'll extend. So we extend out the programming languages so that anybody can create what they need to, but at the same time we also work with the closed stuff. We work with the CMS so that people with no skills in programming can still create and maintain websites. I also have some modules in there that allow you to share out things that you built. So let's say I build a building. Well, I can share it. Now others can use a copy of that building and change it any way they want. So it has a library of things and buildings and communities already in it. And we'll keep on expanding on that, and I'm sure some graphics artists and programmers and things are going to jump in there and just start throwing all kinds of really cool stuff in there. But that's the idea: is we have a community of things that we all share that anybody can grab. And let's say you have a table and you want to put some chairs around it. You're going to be able to go in there. I'm just going to search for a chair. Oh, here's one I like. Drop it 4 times around a table, place them where you want them, and you're ready to go. But that's the concept. Now the idea is the avatars. They can walk around. You right-click on a chair and you sit in it. You see a car, you right-click on a door, it opens. Right-click on the seat, you sit in it. You're driving the car by pushing buttons, but it's interactive, full-on internet. That's the concept. That's what I'm building. That's the vision I have. So as you can tell, I've thought about this and I've been working on it for quite a while, and I'm going to keep going. Going to get this out here, like I said, in about a month. So so definitely follow us and watch and keep up with us, and as we get closer, we'll definitely do a lot of announcements so everybody can keep up with it. Let me see. Let's go back to my code page here. Okay. Any questions? Or you tell me, what would you like to see on this? Because this is, I tell you, it's going to have some of everything. I can't wait till we have trains between cities or even rocket ships to go to other planets, and I can't wait till sci-fi people get a hold of it and create their own favorites. You got it. You got it exactly. That's the concept. Keep it simple. Definitely. You're right on target. And bloggers. Okay, I played around with this, and I'm going to include it as a plugin. But one of the things I did was I created a blogging wall. In my case, I made it kind of look a little Flintstone-ish, so it has some rounded corners, looks like it was a chisel and everything else. But I had things like horizontal rules in it so that between the blogs, they stuck out on the page. I had some words that stuck out on the page for the headings. But I even had a scroll bar on it so that when you moved it, all of these 3D items on that wall piece that was sticking out would move with them. So we're talking about being able to scroll a typical web page on a wall would be really cool, especially if it all stuck out in 3D. And I played around with that, and the concept works. I'm going to write it into a plugin so that it gives everybody a start. But if anybody wants to expand on it, they can definitely do that. Another one that's really cool is I can't wait till somebody decides they want to become the social network. Because, for example, let's say you wanted to become the social network of this new WalkTheWeb. I'm not worried about being the social network. I'm WalkTheWeb. I don't have to be the social network. I'd rather you be that. But the idea is you create this social network functionality. Now, everybody that downloads that plugin and adds it to their server, that functionality now exists on their server. Talk about spanning the globe. Instead of the concept of, hey, I've got a social network, please everybody come over here and see my site, all you have to do is distribute it to be seen all over the internet, and they're using your social network. That's a cool functionality. And it could be things like finding your friends and also communication between them. Right now I set up some simple things with the multiplayer, like you can click on somebody and you can chat back and forth with them, and there's some simple things in place. I'm throwing them into plugins so that they can be enhanced, updated, changed, modified, whatever. But these are the kind of concepts that work in this environment and will be really cool. I'm thinking of possibly getting into the Discord, basically tapping into that with voice over IP so that people can talk between each other as you're in there. Looking at some API with that and stuff, but that's not my highest priority at the moment, obviously. Obviously, I want to do open source and I want to get it in everybody's hands so that we can perfect the product while adding plugins and people can start creating what they want to become with this new internet. Okay, so yeah, that's where we are, that's where I'm going. And like I said, I have a couple things that I've tested in here, and I had created some variables to track them in the database while I was doing it. And now that we're stripping it down to the core release, I'm leaving them in my hosted site, so I still have copies of all this code. But at the same time, I'm removing them from the database and from the tables and stuff to make sure that I can put it in as a plugin, as an additive, instead of into the core part. Yeah, well, here's something else. Yes, I see where you're going, and it is something that a lot of people don't want to adopt. When you mention 3D, the first thing they think of is I'm wearing the goggles, I'm walking around, and I'm looking like all my friends are laughing at me while I'm moving around and looking weird. That's perfectly fine, and I love the experience, obviously, and everything. Well, the trick is the way I set this up, you actually have the options of how you want to see it. So even though it's 3D web, it's using 3D, all the rendering is done, based on the camera view that you choose. So first of all, you can choose your avatar to be, first person, or you can choose to be a follow. You can choose a self camera so it looks at yourself, and you can also do a scene camera. There's a handful of different camera views that we work with, but at the same time, each one of those you can also set if it's going to be 2D rendering, which computer screens, cell phone, tablet, whatever, you can all do that. And then you can also choose the red cyan glasses, and it automatically splits everything into that right away. And then the other one is it will use the headsets, the Oculus and the different things like that. We have all those things are part of Babylon. So basically, Babylon has them, and all I have to do is turn on a different camera with a couple settings. Currently, I have a drop-down list, and you can choose the different settings on the site on 3d.walktheweb.com. You can actually choose the different settings and try them out and stuff, but I haven't expanded it to all of the different headsets and everything else, the VR sets that Babylon has yet. It's just a matter of me adding them to the drop-down and configuring them behind the scenes. Then you're going to be able to just select it. Now all of a sudden you can use that one. So I do kind of take on that position with it because I want to entice everybody to do it. I want people that normally aren't gamers to want to all of a sudden get a gaming computer just because internet works better with 3D internet. I want to basically make it work for everybody. If you've got a cell phone, if you've got a tablet, if you've got a computer, you should be able to get on this and browse it and use it. Now, of course, just like any game environment, the better your capabilities of your computer, the more you're going to be able to see at a time, or the higher end of graphics you're going to be able to turn on, or even the more shadowing you can see and the more lighting effects and reflection on things. There's a bunch of stuff that I have to work with that, let's say you have the supercomputer, you can turn them all on, it's all in the settings, but I'm exposing them so that you can turn it on or off to your best ability. I've been playing around with some auto detecting what kind of processor you have and what kind of video graphics you have and how much RAM you have. I'm checking all kinds of things through the browser, and basically I'll get to the point where it's efficient that based on whichever one you have, it will automatically set the graphics and everything else to run the smoothest for you. Right now, it's an open book. I'm trying to make it work great for everybody, and at the same time, there's some things you can crank up, and there's some things that, there's some adjustments we can do. There's movement settings, and you can change how fast you move, and you can change the animation speeds, and there's all kinds of fun stuff that I've been working with to make it all work well. And it's just a matter of getting it out there and fine-tuning it to work for everybody. So, okay, basically behind the scenes is all PHP. I chose the exact same languages as WordPress because I envision that every server that holds a WordPress website could hold WalkTheWeb website too. So, PHP, we're using JavaScript, we're using CSS, we're using HTML5, Canvas is what the main core of it is, and that's what Babylon uses. That basically inherits WebGL through Babylon. Okay, so that's pretty much, and then I have MySQL behind it. It wouldn't take a lot for us to adapt it for other databases. We could make it adapt. It's not incredibly difficult to do. So, but the idea is that we can even have plugins that let people adapt it other ways. My idea is I'm taking care of the core. I'll manage it. I'll update it as people give me suggestions. I'll fix it. I'll, create it and do it. And that's my part. I want to get it out there, and I want the world to use 3D internet. That's my plan. That's in a nutshell. I know that I'll have some things that, got to make some money to support the servers, obviously. So I'll have a few things that people can pay for as added bonus subscriptions, but the core is going to be free. I'm open source. I'm getting it out there. I don't want to restrict people. I want to enable them. Then if they want to use some services like instead of running their own extension of the multi-user platform or something, then they can sign up and use my server for the multi-user or something. I'll have some options. That's the idea, is to have the options. But the whole core idea is to get it out there and to do it. So I pet earthworms. I'm liking that name. That's kind of funny. But yeah. I'm hoping to find about 100,000 more people that are just like you and I both, where we think about virtual worlds. We've seen these movies. I started creating this before those movies even came out, but there were books back then, Snow Crash, where they talk about virtual universes and everything. And the truth is, the day I first saw Canvas, when HTML5 came out, I started looking at all the demos it could do, and it triggered in my mind, and I went, holy crap, it's possible now. Because before that day, you couldn't do it. You could create a game, you could write it in C++, and do all that stuff, and you can have a distributed game and all this other things. But that was the day where I envisioned that this could happen in a browser. And then over the years, the concepts have been fine-tuned and figured out how to put them all together. And believe me, it's grown, and it's kind of snowballing now, and it's picking up, and it's gaining momentum to actually release it and to be able to let the world create what it's going to create out of it. I'll give them the platform. I've got the foundation. This is how you have 3D internet, and then what people do with it and create. A good example. Just last year, this is how recent it was. Just last year, Walmart filed 2 different patents just to see about 3D shopping and about having fulfillment centers that were automated to handle providing the products for people that go 3D shopping. They bought a virtual reality company. Well, here's the deal. If they go online with some VR experience and you're walking down Walmart stores and everything else, how are the mom and pop stores going to keep up? How are the small businesses that have to do their own thing trying to keep in there? You got it. But how are they going to get it? The only way to do it is if we have a standard platform and all developers go, hey, I can write in here. I don't have to create the world. I don't have to create this whole environment, this whole game, this whole experience on a website. All I have to do is, drop this scene in there, drop this item in here. Now I'll create a custom building for them. Now they've got a unique shopping experience. We want to attract some more people here. I'm going to put a miniature golf course next door. People will go play miniature golf, but then they'll buy t-shirts at my store afterwards. That's the concept, is that we blend it together, we mix them. Or I like to use the old example. I have a shoe store on a site. I can put a sock store across the street. Well, when people go to one, because that's what they're looking for, they see mine and they end up buying something from my store too. So it's kind of like sharing customers. So while Walmart is worried about building their 3D experience, we're creating 3D malls of a whole bunch of different stores. Yeah, you know it. Yeah. Yeah, you got it. You got it. I had to laugh when Ralph Breaks the Internet came out, because I'm watching it and all of a sudden he goes into the internet and he just comes out and he turns around, looks over the edge, and all you see is all these buildings with all these different names of different things that you would find on the internet, like Google and Disney and all these different pieces out there. And I'm sitting there thinking, yes, that's what I'm building right there, right there, right there. We're making it come true. We're actually building these different cities, these different worlds. So that's the idea. And can't you just wait for, like, when all these people are creating these cities and you just go out on the internet and we'll feature top ones all the time and stuff. People can go to the site and go, oh, here's a new one to check out. And then they go walk around these cities and visit and see what's there. So I mean, you can discover new things. We can have everything from museums to just all kinds of cool stuff. And I can't wait. I can't wait to visit sites that I didn't know existed using these tools that I've created. That's my vision. I want to do that. I want to go, holy crap, hey, look, somebody created a really cool car. I want to hop in and drive it and do it because somebody else joined in and threw in their 2 cents on something that they're great at. That's where it makes a difference. And that's what I'm doing. So tell all your friends, support us, with following us and everything, and we'll keep on building the product. And like I said, I'm going to release something in 1 month, and it's going to be a working copy of something. So we're going to go from there and keep on building. So let's see. But we definitely, and just a little thing also. I've patented the concept of 3D browsing, where it's a distributed system of buildings as websites that can be put into communities and browsed and loaded as you're walking and everything else. I patented that in USA, Mexico, Canada, India, and UK. And so we've already got patent in 2 of those countries, and the other 3 are pending. But yeah, so if you want to walk the web, this is where it'll be. That's the plans. So okay, so we've got a good picture out there. Like I said, we've got a lot of pieces that are coming together. Been working on it for a while, and the last stage here is getting the product out on the shelves so that everybody can download it, use it, and everything. So let's see. Okay, I'm getting rid of a couple variables. So let's check across here, find out if they're in use in the code. If they are, some of them I might just need to disable. Nope, see, things like this, I didn't end up using it in the long run because I'm going to get rid of that one and that one. And we don't need that comma. The whole idea is I didn't need them after the fact. So I'll get rid of that move position afterwards. Okay, mode merge ID, we do not need that function to run anymore. And mode merge ID 2. Okay. This is part of my install process. There was a couple of values that I do not want to, I don't want it to load. We're getting rid of these 2 because they're no longer in use. They were one of my test patterns, so basically when it was done testing, I had to, it's not part of the core product, so let's see, get that out of there, get this one, get that one. Okay, get those pieces out of place. And There's a lot of repetition. Once I got something working, I used it more than once, right? Isn't that the way we do things as programmers? And that one's gone, and that one's gone. I tried to write it in a way that I didn't require a lot of notes in the columns. I did put some notes in place, and I'll be going through and making sure that there's enough notes in the right places. But the idea is that if you do it right, then you don't need a whole lot of notes. You can tell things right away what it's doing and how, and makes it friendly. The code is real friendly. I've worked really hard while I wrote it to make everything indent properly and space properly, because I just wanted to make it where I knew from the start, from day one working on this project, that I wanted to make an open source program. That way, when I do it, I wanted to make sure that anybody could go into the code and see exactly how I did things or what I was doing at any one point in time. So what you're going to see is you're going to see some things that are almost like longhand spelled out in the code. Just the whole idea is just to make sure that everybody can follow the code and jump right in. I want to invite developers and not discourage anybody. I've created quite a few of little tutorials on YouTube, and I'll be making more, especially when we get the final product up here. Then I'll be doing a lot more videos that do walkthroughs and tell you how to do different stuff in it. But right now, it's all about enhancing and giving everybody as many options as they can to do things. And so that was the goal from the start, and that's how I wrote it. So we should have pretty good results here. Okay, and I'm getting rid of these two variables. I'll be cleaning up some more of this in a minute too. Like I said, stripping it down to the core product so that so it doesn't load any more than it has to. And then as people specialize and create their own custom components for it, everything will be able to run at its best all the time. Another thing I did, just so you know, is the database itself. I have two different ways of storing images in your program. When you do something that's public, for example, you create a website and a 3D website, and all the images on it are going to be shown to the world. Well, then of course, the best way to do that is runs the fastest is put it right on the files right on the actual server. So just like WordPress does, you post a picture to the website, it writes it to the hard drive, and basically you see it directly as a file image. One of the things that we have an option for, and this is a security option, is we can also write images and different blob data to the database. Now, the advantage of doing this is when it's on the web server, somebody could hunt it down, find it, and get a hold of that image and find it and use it. When you have it in the database, it goes directly from the database right to the shown 3D viewing, and there's no place to grab the image other than snapshotting your screen. The other part is when we do it this direction, if the user isn't logged in, if they haven't gone, let's say you create a room that has a password on the door. You type the password on the door, now you have access to go in. Well, let's say we don't load the room of what's inside it until you actually type that correct password. So we can secure things that aren't available natively on the server without a password, but they'd have to go through the database, which is a lot more secure to get to. So you'd have to have the password, you'd have to have the login properly, and then you would finally see, and it would load up what's inside this room. So there's some things we can do like that and have a lot of fun with what's available and what's not. Can you imagine creating for example, have something like a lot of people are going out and they're doing those, the escape rooms? Can you imagine a virtual escape room? Your avatar's in this room, you got to solve puzzles, and then all of a sudden when you do, something moves, all of a sudden something opens up, and then you can walk out and go into that area and try to escape the next segment, the next place, the next area. We can create all kinds of games like that using this technology. So cool stuff, definitely cool stuff. Okay, so I want to make sure these are gone. I was getting merge mold number 2 while I was doing it, and basically it's gone. Good. And I'm going to remove it from the database now because we don't need these in here. Okay, from move position, move start in, move start in, all the way down to there, we've now removed every one of those fields. So clean up and use only the things we need. Okay, so those are the action zones. Everything else looks good in there. I'm not going to do avatar animations, building moles, buildings. Okay. Cool. I'm going to try out the plugin. Good deal. Oh, very cool. I like the idea. Yeah, cleaning and organizing their living spaces. That's very, very cool. Just so you know, right now, if you go to 3d.walktheweb.com, you can play around. It's a playground. It's a beta, so things may work. Things may be broken because I tried something else with it and didn't come back to something I was working on. Just so you know, that's a little playground. Create an account, enjoy, try whatever you want in there. It's all good. When we get this new version out there, I'm going to be using the same new version as everybody else so that we're all on the same page and we're using the same product. So that will be switched over to my hosting solution at that time. Then one of the things I was going to do is I'm going to do some more drag and drop when you're placing items on the scene, on the screen and everything. So we'll play around with that. There's going to definitely be... there's going to be some enhancements there because the other one is I need to set it up to snap to grid. I know how popular that is, and in fact I like to use it myself. So some things like that, I'm going to work on it and get it in place. But well, just so you know, coming up on this 3-day weekend here, and I didn't have a lot of time today, but I wanted to squeeze in a little bit of time. Man, you are awesome. I appreciate it. I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate your words. I appreciate everything you've said. I really appreciate your questions and your comments. And I'm on almost every day. There's an occasional day I can't, but otherwise I show up, at least an hour every day, most of the time 2 or more. But so please come back again, follow so you know when I'm on, and definitely I'll continue answering your questions as I go, and I'll continue to get the product ready for release. So thank you so much for tuning in, and have a great Labor Day weekend. Take care.